One thing I found out for the record is that people that phone in here, I can't trap their phone numbers. I actually talked to BC Tel today because I wanted to find one particular person to be able to get back to them.
Right.
Absolutely not. No, they can track it, I know.
You've
but
got an
it's
800 number. Do you not get a list of the incoming
Absolutely
calls?
not. They got the 866 calls. It's
Really?
against their tariff to provide that for the people. And of course, we had Shirley Stalker here
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago talking about the Crime Stoppers.
Last week, yeah.
Last week, and we're talking about Crime Stoppers, and those numbers are absolutely not trapped.
Right.
No way, shape, or form are they trapped. So that's stuff's sort of good. You're in the. We'll come back to HST for a while. But let's talk about Chris Delaney for a while because you're in the entertainment business. You're cartoon
Animation.
animated.
Yeah.
What's happening with your business right now?
Well, it's
Did you get to produce one of these commercials for the Olympics? Right
no,
now?
I haven't done anything to do with the Olympics. We've got a few clients in the States and actually also eastern part of Canada, Alberta, and that. But yeah, it's been slow, and we're also trying to raise a little bit of funding right now, some investment to do a slate of movies, low-budget independent movies, and there's been better times, let's put it that way. It's a very, very tough market out there for raising money. I was talking to a friend earlier before the show, and we were saying how what seems to be keeping the economy going is people are consuming still. They're buying cars, they're doing things, but there isn't a lot of new businesses coming online. There isn't a lot of sort of new activity happening. So we live in a prodigious enough culture, I guess, or economy that there's a bit of fat there we can live off of for a while. But after a while, that's going to start to dissipate, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it's like a family. You know, you can say, well, Dad lost his job, but we've got some savings, so we'll live off
There's
that.
still food in the
and there
cupboard.
isn't a big
There's
disruption.
food in the cupboards.
Yeah, and there isn't a huge disruption to your lifestyle. You cut back a little bit, but then at some point you go, you know what? We don't have anything left, and this is what's happening here now. So hopefully in the United States and Canada, things will start to pick up. But really, the only way to create new wealth is to create a product that people want to buy. You can only trade gold stocks for so long. You've got to create jobs. You've got to build an economy.
No, you need a new product. You need something new that's produced.
New
into
products
the
that people
economy.
want to buy. And manufacturing, believe it or not, irrespective of the fact that we don't do as much manufacturing anymore, but manufacturing of something, whether it's high-end video, film production, or whatever, is the key to wealth creation. And I've said this many times in British Columbia, we have all these resources. There's no reason why we can't do a level of secondary manufacturing on it. And our forest industry was set up to do that in the past, where we milled the timber into lumber, and they've basically given up the ghost on that, and they're just shipping logs all the time. And that was supposed to be a temporary stopgap. Well, that was 8 years ago. That was temporary, and they've been doing it now for 8 years. What's happened? It's decimated the forest industry. You're not going to get those jobs back. They've got to, I think, take a new
No, in this case, it's devastated the forest industry.
Devastated. Again. Did I say decimated?
Yes,
yeah.
you did.
I'm going to have to stop that from now on. Yeah, not 1 in every 10. No, it's been terrible. And
It's all right. Rafe Mayer got mad at me for correcting him one time on that too.
No, it's fine. I don't get
He's a
angry.
wordsmith.
But yeah, it's disappointing, and I think the HST sort of compounds it all because you're saying to people, well, we're lagging in forestry, oil and gas is low, things are tough, it's tough all over, and we're going to hit you with a consumption-based tax. Well, that's the only thing keeping the economy going. If you take consumption away, if you reduce consumption, what have you got left?
Yeah.
There is no actual policy to it. And what's funny, I say this to a lot of people who are sort of ardent Liberal supporters. They say, well, we're really mad at the Liberals. We're really frustrated. Well, we don't want the NDP. And as you know, I'm not an NDPer. But my answer to them is, well, what is it that the NDP is going to do that's worse than what these guys are doing? They ran a $2.8 billion deficit this year. That's double the worst deficit ever presented by the NDP. I mean, we're sitting here in 10.5% unemployment. That's as bad as anything we ever
When
had.
I started in this business, $2.8 billion was the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's 28 billion. 10
Well,
times,
yeah, but the money's not worth as much anymore.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can't buy nearly as many
yeah.
politicians for that amount.
Yeah. Well, there is inflation and all that. But the point is, you have a situation here where they're making up policy on the fly. It's ad hoc policy making. There is no long-term goal. There's no infrastructure plan or industrial plan for British Columbia, and they're just making it up as they go. And they've had some good revenues coming in from hydroelectricity in the past, although that's now changing. They've had some good oil revenues, which is also fluctuating. So at the end of the day, what do you end up with? You end up with ad hoc policy making, which is very poor policy making, and it's as bad or anything that anybody's ever seen before. So what is it you're trying to prop up here? The only thing I can think of is that some people have influence with that government, and they're afraid of losing that influence if the new guys come into town. But at a certain point, we all have to say, it's not about us as individuals, it's about our whole province, and we have to do what's right by it. And that's why I'm fighting the HST, because it's wrong. It's going to hurt people. It's the wrong policy at the wrong time.
Well, it's not necessary. It's not
No,
necessary.
it's not
They can
necessary.
change. They could change the income tax rate by 1%, which sounds like a lot, but that would be easier and neater and easier would raise the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because we got this low. I mean, the situation is so silly right now that the taxes in California are so much higher than BC. The taxes in New York are so much higher than Ontario. Taxes in Colorado are so much higher than Alberta. There is nobody other than Washington State, Alaska, which unfortunately are abutting states to us. There's nobody really in the states anymore that's paying less tax in the states. The tax rates are all higher down there now.
But what you're really talking about is fiscal policy as much as anything else, because you've got to raise a certain amount of money for government.
That's true.
When you're dealing with tax, you can use either an income tax or a consumption tax, or you can use a mix of both, which is what we're doing. Well, in a society where you have huge marijuana grow-ups, you've got a ton of
What you're saying is
crime.
we have a cash society.
We have a cash society. A consumption tax actually makes more sense in a cash society than it does in a typical society. But because we've ended up in this. However, it doesn't really matter. But we've also got gambling revenue and things that we're based on a consumption type tax.
But here's the problem, Richard, and I don't disagree with most of what you've said, except sort of playing devil's advocate. When you
So
go,
am I.
Yeah, when you go into a consumption-based tax system, what happens is you have leakage, and nobody wants to talk about this, but Great Britain this year, the government of the UK, is estimating that they're losing between 20 and 30 billion US per year on their value-added tax that's gone underground. So people do it off invoice, right? And
But
so,
they
saw
do
that
the
with
same thing with income tax, though.
well, income tax, they avoided other
They
ways.
avoided
too.
other
But I'm
ways.
just saying,
Yeah.
it's not a panacea to correct that, because people just go off invoice on consumption-based taxes and they don't pay it either. And so then you're into, how do you get compliance? So what happens, what governments don't seem to respect, is that there's a saturation point for everybody. So when you get to that point where people don't have any more money to give you, they're not going to give it. And that's just where we're at now. And so they're actually, Von Palmer wrote a column the other day saying that there are some estimates that saying that the tax, the HST, will be actually revenue reduction for the government, that they will actually have a net loss of revenues on it. That's very possible too.
Well, it's easily possible because more people will go off thing.
That's
I've
right.
had more people, excuse me, more people in the last year and a half want to offer me cash deals than I've had in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no doubt that that's what's happening out there,
Yeah.
because everybody and their dog, it doesn't matter whether they
Well,
fix
you-
driveways,
yeah.
cut down trees, it doesn't matter what
You think
they
about
do.
new home construction, for example. That's massive. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars in additional tax. People are going to find every which way they can to make the price of that house under the $520,000 limit, and they're going to have $100,000 or $200,000 in off-invoice extras that they're going to pay cash for.
Get it to lock up and
Yeah.
get me the kitchen and 2 bedrooms finished and a bathroom finished,
Well-
so that I can get it inspected. That's the selling price, and then you come back off invoice and finish it, and we'll deal.
Yeah.
And